Hello, Roland Warren here. In a recent article in Newsweek magazine, pro-choice activist Katie Stack described her choice to terminate a pregnancy in college as empowering. She said it aided her in adapting a feminist framework that led her to investigations of pregnancy centers. Ms. Stack is quoted in the article as saying, "It was the first time I felt like I had any control over anything, having that abortion. I'm happy with my abortion. People get uncomfortable when I say my abortion was a good experience, but it was." Now, this is interesting, especially when you contrast this statement with Faye Waddleton, former president of Planned Parenthood, who once said, "I cannot recall a single woman who declared that terminating a pregnancy is a life-fulfilling event." Having spoken to countless post-abortive women, my sense is that Ms. Waddleton is right. She's spot on. But there's something else that struck me about Ms. Stack's statement that I want to explore. Let's look at her statement that she felt it was the first time she had any control over anything. Now that seems pretty impossible to me. By the time you're in college, you've made all kinds of decisions on your own. I'm sure Ms. Stack chose her college, what subjects to major in, who to hang out with, who would be her friends. The list goes on. Moreover, I'm sure that she made many decisions about her body too. I'm sure she made decisions about which doctors she would go to, appointments that she went to, illnesses that she needed treatment for, and injuries that she incurred and how she would handle them. And even at a more mundane level, everyone, for that matter, decides about things like, when am I going to raise my hand? When am I going to scratch my face? You see, we're in control of all kinds of decisions. Moreover, we're making choices about our bodies with complete autonomy every day. So her decision to have an abortion couldn't have been her first my body, my choice decision. But does everyone feel empowered, in Ms. Stack's own words, when they make these sorts of decisions? Of course not. So what was different about this particular decision, the decision to have an abortion, that gave her such a power rush? What was it about this particular decision that made her feel like she was in control? The answer is that through this decision, she exercised her power over the life of someone else, the vulnerable unborn child growing inside of her. Think about other situations in which you hear people talking about being in control and getting a power rush. There are almost always situations where one person is in the position of power over another person, often a person who's less powerful than they are. For example, sometimes soldiers returning from war will talk about the adrenaline rush when they face the enemy. Or folks in a sporting event, whether it's making a big tackle in a football game or serving an ace to an opponent during a tennis match. There's a power rush, isn't there? A sense that I own you. But frankly, this is also the sort of thing that you hear from people who have done some of the most hurtful things to others. Their sense of power comes from controlling others' lives, and too often from taking those lives away. And it's easier than we think for us to slip into their destructive mode and worldview while exercising power. Take Charles Manson. The prosecutor in his trial said that Manson coupled his insatiable thirst for power with an intense obsession for violent death. Or Adolf Hitler. He spent years taking control of the government so that he could exercise his power over the Jews he hated. Now, am I saying that Katie Stack and other women who unfortunately had abortions are the same as Charles Manson and Adolf Hitler? Well, of course not. But here's the thing. Empowerment is a morally neutral word. You have to ask, empowerment to what end? That's why it's absolutely critical that we recognize that the language of empowerment often used by the abortion movement is eerily and disturbingly similar to the language used by and used to describe some of the most violent actions and movements in history. And like those movements, they lead to the death of the innocent. You see, sometimes a slippery slope is, well, a slippery slope. With fallible people, there is wisdom in the saying that power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. But here's the thing. God's grace and forgiveness is there for us when we use our power outside of His design. Absolutely. Until next time, may God bless you daily as you serve Him faithfully.